Hello everyone, back at it again, and we're doing something a little different today. We are at an abandoned animal park, also known as a zoo. At one point they had elephants here, they had lions, tigers. The park opened in the 1920s. Look at that, they let people touch the bear cubs. I don't think they had rules back then. But the park ran until 1987, and then the town bought it. And now it's basically just walking trails and grass. There's a few buildings, there's a playground, there's a dog park. And it's just set up for people to enjoy and, ride bikes around, walk dogs, maybe a baby in a stroller, that kind of stuff. And it's really lovely. It's I think the original size was 200 acres, and a lot of it's been preserved. Just launched the kayak, and I can see there's a few bobbers in the water from probably kids fishing from shore, getting stuck in the reeds, etc. So the way this is set up is that there's a stream that runs through the park, and they've made some obviously man-made impoundments of that stream to form little ponds. And I'm in the largest of the ponds. And I did that on purpose because, well, one, there's just more room to move around. But usually if in a place like this, the biggest pond in a series of ponds like that will have the biggest fish. And so if I find some big fish here, and I don't know what's in here really. I think I fished here from shore a long time ago, just took a few casts, and I knew it was really shallow with a lot of slimy weeds. So I'm here early in the spring before the weeds really get going, and that's so I can see what's in here. I can see the depth, I can see the structure, and hopefully I can see some fish. There's people fishing here, obviously. I can see the bobbers, etc. But I don't really know what's in here in terms of size or species. There's really nothing online that tells me there's big fish in here. So this is just kind of a scouting mission, just to see what lives in this park. So the first thing I'm going to do is put on a Yo-Zuri wake crank. I really like that crank. I don't know if they're going to keep making it anymore. It's much better as a crankbait than a wake bait. I don't really think Yo-Zuri knows what they have here, but it has a little bit of a hunting action. It'll hunt better in current. I've got a stream coming in on the north side there. You can see it a little bit later in the video. But basically there's a culvert where the stream comes through, and there's a rock wall. So there it is, there's the culvert. So I'm casting towards that stream inflow. Sometimes fish will push up into that moving water as the stream is going over shallow rocks, etc. It can be a little bit warmer than the pond water. And so it's both a temperature thing and oxygen thing, a food thing, and just something different for the fish to focus on. There's a few trees, like that pine tree, I guess, that's overhanging the bank there. But in general, it's a pretty featureless pond. It's about 3 feet or less, most of it. So it's very shallow. On the other side, sort of the downhill side, it gets to be about 4 feet. But in general, it's a very, very shallow pond. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was some fish kills here when we have hard winters, which is going to also limit the size of the fish in here. Now there is some flow, there is a stream, and that'll help keep oxygen levels higher in here, but I wouldn't be surprised if in really cold winters there are some fish kills in here, just because the whole thing is just so shallow. So I fished this inflow for a little bit, and the only thing I could see were these little 3-4 inch bluegill. So I made my way around the pond, and I found some more fish, but they weren't really what I was looking for. And I switched to my ultralight rod, or one of my ultralight rods. This happens to be 4'6" Pflueger President combo, and it had an ice reel that I use ice fishing, and they were having a deal in the winter. I think it was Dick's Sporting Goods, where you could get the rod essentially for free. And I thought, what the heck? I'll get a reel for ice fishing, and I'll get a bonus rod out of the deal, and I can take that rod to places like this, where I'm on trails where there's a good chance the rod might get banged up, or something goes wrong with the landing or the launch, and the rod ends up in the drink. It's okay because I essentially got it for free. But I was having a problem because this pond is so shallow that when I was trying to slow crank, I was fishing a shad fries on a 1/16 ounce head, and I was trying to slow crank it because the fish are still slow. This is early in the spring and the fish aren't really fired up yet. I've got no wind, which doesn't help either. So I had this idea I could scavenge some of the bobbers that I saw when I was launching, and maybe with a few of those smaller bobbers I could rig up some kind of float and jig rig, just to present my shad fries a little bit slower and have it just hover there above the bottom of the lake without catching some of that slimy weed, or there's some reeds against the shoreline. Plus I want to clean up the place a little bit, leave it a little bit cleaner than I found it. Sometimes birds can get tangled up in old fishing line, or who knows what. Even dogs chasing a ball or something into the lake, and I don't want any animals to get tangled up with hooks and line and bobbers, etc. So I'm kind of killing two birds with one stone here. But yeah, this place is very accessible for people. You can fish pretty much the whole shoreline of this pond and have yourself a good day here. I think there's one more bobber. Yeah, one more bobber. Some of these broken off lines still had hooks on them, so I got to be a little careful I don't stick myself with a rusty hook. But we'll get that all squared away. I'm looking over the sides with my polarized glasses. I'm trying to see if I can see any fish or see any structure. I'm paying attention if I see some fish on the surface kind of swirl away from me. Trying to see what they are. I know out here there's a cement block and some pipe. I assume they had a fountain out here before, and I'm looking to see if there's any kind of fish around it. I know it's hard to see into the water on camera, but there's at least two big cement blocks here and a bunch of old pipe, and I assume it was for some kind of fountain in the middle of the lake at one point. But other than that, there's just not a lot of structure in this pond. I mean, there's a few overhanging limbs and trees. There's a few branches that made their way into the water, but otherwise it's pretty barren, honestly. And the fishing could probably be improved with some more structure here to provide some habitat for fingerling fish and bait, and provide ambush spots for larger predators. And it really just doesn't have much in it. But I'm going to get that bobber onto my line and make my way towards the deeper part of the pond. This is closer to the dam on the outflow, and typically you can sort of think of it as the downhill side of the pond. Typically the deepest water will be near the exit dam. So even if there's a you know, like a rock wall on the north side where the stream was coming in. That's not going to be the deepest water. The deepest water is going to be near the outflow. And I was on this side before. I found some fish. Again, they were more like 3, 4 inch, 5 inch bluegill, pretty small fish. I did see a few crappie in the mix. Those were a little bit bigger, 4, 5, 6 inches. Still very, very small. And I don't have little tiny ice jigs with me. That would be ideal, like a little tiny ice jig underneath a float with a piece of plastic or a piece of worm. Something with a very small hook, like a size 10 or a size 12, and I'd be in business. So I'm just trying to make this work and see if I can target something a little bit bigger. I'm still not fishing anything very big at all. It's just that the fish that I've seen so far are really on the small side. So I got my shad fries. I'm putting a little smelly jelly on there. It's just a fish scent. And I got my scavenge bobber. And I'm ready to start loading the boat. Now that bobber's landing a lot harder than I wanted to. And I really should have my Thill Shy Bite floats with me. And they land with much less force. In shallow water like this where there's no wind, when you plunk something down from outer space really hard like that, it's going to scatter the fish that are there. So not ideal, but this is just what I have. Kind of trying to make it work with stuff that I've scavenged. And we're going to get there. You can see some people walking along the trails. But this is, I would say, a pond that's really set up for kids to fish or to take little kids fishing. The whole place is easily accessible by shore. A lot of the fish that I saw weren't very far from shore either, so you know, any kind of push button rod, reel combo, or ultralight is plenty. And all you really need is you know, small hooks, because these are small fish, and a rod that'll cast, you know, 10 yards from shore. You don't even have to be that far. Focus on the higher percentage spots near the inflow and the outflow. Maybe another spot could be near some overhanging trees, something like that. And you could have a ball here, catching lots of fish, mostly small, but a good time. You know, in general, little kids don't care what they're catching as long as they're catching. 2 hours in a boat with no fish is just about the worst for little kids with short attention spans. So as long as you're on fish and catching them, and you have kind of gear set up to match what kind of fish are in the pond you're trying to catch, you'll have a good time. I'm messing around a little bit with the length of the leader between the float and my shad fries. I'm just seeing how it pendulums in the water. I'm going to cast right at that outflow. I'll let the ripples settle down from the big splashdown. And then I'm going to do a slow, steady reel. Let that swim bait kind of pendulum down. I'm in about the deepest water that's in this place. Got to about 4 feet deep, I think I saw was the max. And that's something a little better, and I can tell because my little ultralight rod is doubled over. This calls for the net. He's not a giant fish, but he's probably an apex predator for this abandoned animal park pond. That's a little pickerel, maybe medium-sized. But he's in good shape. He's probably eating those 3 or 4 inch bluegill, and he's ready to go back. All right, I had a good time at the abandoned animal park pond. I've satisfied my curiosity for what lives in here, and I have kind of a mental picture of how the pond is set up, what kind of fish are in it, what size those fish are, and then I can decide if I want to come back or not. And for me, the answer is probably no, I'm not going to come back here. If there was big fish in here, I think I would have seen them. Even if I couldn't catch them, I would expect them to swirl and move out of the way of the kayak, and I really just didn't see any of that. I caught a medium-sized pickerel. He looked to be in good shape. I wouldn't be surprised if there's more small to medium-sized pickerel in here, and maybe a few bass that are just laying low today. But for me, it's not the kind of place that I think is worth dragging the kayak down the trail to fish here again. What it is set up for, though, is an ideal place to take little kids fishing, or kids to come after school or whatever. I used to do that a lot when I was younger. And you can have a ball at a place like this. Just remember, small hooks for small fish, and you can have yourself a great day. And you can practice certain techniques. You can try different floats, see how they perform. You can try different ice jigs, little tungsten jigs with a size 10 or 12 hook, and just have yourself a day. All right, that's it. Thank you all for watching. I'll list everything in the video description, just like all my other videos. And I'll catch you on the next one. See ya!